Hello, everyone, and welcome to this wonderful series for women founders and leaders of legal businesses. This is our launch session, and I couldn't be more excited about the folks that we're getting to launch with. I'm going to ask Sasha Kirk, who is going to introduce the panel shortly. Hi, Sasha, to introduce them and to have a bit of a chat about their background as well. But let me introduce Sasha. She's your facilitator for today, which might be this afternoon or this evening, depending on where you're located in the world. She's the co-founder and chief marketing officer of Lawcadia, which is a multi-award winning company here in this region, the Asia Pacific. So this session is all about becoming a CEO, moving from founder to CEO. So really, really looking forward to this session. And if I may officially start us with an acknowledgement of country, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we all meet today. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people here today. So with that having been said, I'm going to hand over to you, Sasha, and welcome everyone again.
Thank you so much, Terry. It's absolutely delightful to be here and to have the first session opening up, the women series that Centre for Legal Innovation has been progressing with, which is, really inspiring and exciting for women entrepreneurs and professionals in this area. Thank you so much as well also for introducing me. I'll share a little bit more about myself shortly, but I just want to welcome Sonia and Sherilyn to today's session. I had the opportunity to meet them a few weeks ago, and gosh, they are just such incredible people and so entrepreneurial, and I'm really excited to have them here today. So I'm going to start by asking them to introduce themselves, share a bit of their background, the businesses that they've founded, and really, I guess, tell the story about how they've got to where they are now. So I'm going to start with you first, Sonia.
I'm Sonia Ebron. I'm co-founder and CEO at Courtroom 5. We are reimagining delivery of legal services in the United States. I am a PhD electrical engineer, not a lawyer, but I found myself in court without a lawyer and just was shocked, first at not being able to afford a lawyer, but secondly at how complex and difficult the procedures were. If you're in the US, you sort of grew up with Judge Judy and the television shows. And I found out very quickly that civil litigation was a bit more complex than that. And so, I managed to muddle through because of my educational advantages, but I saw a lot of other people, predominantly ethnic minorities, who just had no chance to get justice in that system. And so I wanted to build Courtroom 5 because you shouldn't need a PhD, right, to be able to get a fair hearing in court. And so what we've done at Courtroom 5 is to build a process that helps those people mimic the behavior of a lawyer so that they can hire real lawyers on an unbundled or limited scope basis at much lower cost than full representation. And so we're still very much at the beginning of that process in terms of the full access to justice crisis that we're experiencing in the US and around the world. But yeah, that's what we do at Courtroom 5.
Yeah, absolutely love that. That's fantastic. And Sherilyn?
Hi, everybody. I'm the founder and CEO of Tesseract Technologies. And similar to Sonia, actually, my journey started off with access to justice. Currently, Tesseract Technologies is a B2B low-code, no-code workflow automation for law firms, accounting firms, and other professional services firms. But at the beginning of it, it was basically my journey of trying to help people to find access to justice, to have an affordable lawyer that they can find in the next 1 or 2 days where they need urgent legal help. So it started with my own problem because myself, I couldn't find a lawyer in time. And I was wondering, like, Sonia, you don't need to have, a lot of education, but you need to be able to find help immediately. So we started off with asialawnetwork.com, which basically is a platform that helps people find lawyers. And then what we realized was that the time lag between people trying to find lawyers and people getting help, it's too long. It takes like maybe a week or two, sometimes even up to a month. And that month, you can have people who are really in dire straits. They are like, with their families in very difficult positions. And that's where it started the whole journey of me trying to solve that hole from search to automating firms from behind so that they can respond faster to requests coming in.
Thank you. Thanks, Sherilyn. So a little bit about me. So as Terry said, I'm Sasha, co-founder and chief marketing officer at Lawcadia. My background's actually in rural Australia. I grew up in an area that people overseas might know as the Australian outback. And my family, generations of I guess, of business owners, and that was a big influence for me. Interestingly, my first job actually was at a small solicitor's office, where I would do generally the runabout sort of stuff. But I decided I wasn't going to go into law, and I studied marketing. I worked at large FMCG organisations in Australia and overseas. And in those roles, I worked really closely with procurement and manufacturing. And I saw, the structure and the processes and the ways that they were engaging, different types of materials and services. But I was still quite associated with the legal industry. My best friends are lawyers or former lawyers. My husband's a former corporate lawyer. And I went on to consult into law firms and management consulting companies. And what really struck me was just the way that law firms were being engaged in a really unstructured way. And then that when they were engaged, there wasn't a lot of process or consistency in the way that they were managing matters. So bills were blowing out. And that was when it kind of triggered an idea with my co-founder, Warwick, who's a former corporate lawyer. He also saw that there are a lot of pain points and not a lot of structure in the industry in the way that law firms were being engaged. So we founded Lawcadia at the end of 2015 to transform the way that in-house legal teams instruct and engage their law firms, to try and bring greater transparency, accountability, and structure to the way that was done. So over time, we've expanded the platform. So now it's an end-to-end legal operations platform that incorporates matter intake and self-service, with matter management, law firm engagements, RFPs, and invoices. And certainly one of the things that we're really passionate about is, moving away from that focus on the billable hour and, to really supporting the entire, industry and the people working in it to embrace, better legal project management. And that's been, a key influence of what we're doing. So now, the topic that we're focusing on today is, founder and moving to CEO. So, starting off as a founder, you're usually wearing all the hats, you're doing everything. But then as you progress to CEO, there are changes. And I guess I'm really curious to hear, we'll hear from you first, Sherilyn, about, what changes for you? What did you find that was hard? And what have you found that you've enjoyed about that progression?
What changes for me is actually, from being very operational. I think at the beginning of the journey, you basically wear like 8 hats almost, right? From sales to operations to client success, to finance, and doing all these things all at the same time. But as you grow in the journey, what has changed is like how I have to really take myself away from all these operational activities and to start thinking strategically. And that it's quite a journey. It's not as easy as I thought it would be. I mean, it's really just taking off hats, right? I should be happy doing that, but but the more when you train people to do that, and maybe they're not doing it the same way as you think they should be doing it, and that's where you start losing kind of control over some parts of the business, but you need to have trust in your team to kind of move forward. So that's the part that really changed for me. So the hard part really is coming up with all the structures and really be very, very honest with what you really need to complement yourself. So when you're looking for more team members, I think one of the first few things that all founders need to do is to be really honest. What are your strengths and weaknesses? And then write down the list of activities or job scope that you want to really pass on to someone who can do it better than yourself. And when you can do that properly, then you can hire people and you can hire the team that you need to grow this on your journey, moving forward.
And what you enjoy, Sherilyn?
Oh, what I enjoy. I actually really enjoy the whole process. I like to focus on the part of learning. Every single part of the journey. I mean, it's a startup, right? So you're moving at like 100 times the speed, and that whole fast speed learning is exhilarating. And sometimes it's just about managing yourself and asking yourself to learn, okay, I need to learn this by today, and I have to 10 times my knowledge in this today or tomorrow. I mean, I always say yesterday, but it's usually in the next month or next year. So that part is very exciting for me.
Yeah, I agree. I just love that learning process. And Sonia, you're at a different stage. You're a bit earlier in the process than Sherilyn. I'd love to hear from you about, what's changed, what is changing for you. What are some of the hard parts, and what are those things that you're really appreciating?
Yeah, I feel like I'm right at the line, founder to CEO. As you indicated initially, founders do it all, right? We've got our hands in pretty much product development, sales, the whole bit. And so we've hired some great people now, but we've also made some mistakes in that process, and I've found one of the most difficult aspects of moving from founder to CEO. So we've done it all and we feel like we know how to do everything, but then you go to hire people who are experienced and have some specialization in an area. It's easy to screw that up, I found, right? And particularly when you are a startup, because I've hired people in earlier careers, no problem, but those were established organizations. The job descriptions were fairly well defined. It's not for a startup. You're looking for startup types, right? People who can survive in the pivots that we have to do. And so that has been one of the most challenging aspects for us. We're really lucky. We've got a great team right now, but I can foresee, just as we grow, making many more of those mistakes. And so we've got some training to do in that regard. I would also highlight planning. We as founders, we had to plan day to day, essentially a very short timeline, because it was, the major issue was survival. How do we survive? And now the question is, okay, how do we grow? And that takes a little bit more discipline in the planning process, a little bit more thoughtfulness. And we found some challenges certainly there. It's important work to do, but you've got to be very disciplined and comprehensive in a way that we didn't have to be as founders. Delegating. Right, getting our hands out of the weeds and letting the very talented people that we've hired, take it from there, make some decisions on their own and trust them to do the right thing. And for me personally, as CEO, I've been really working hard to automate some of the repeatable processes that I have to do, so that I have more time for the things that I enjoy. Talking to investors, believe it or not, I actually enjoy thought leadership, writing articles, attending panels like this and so forth, right? But that requires me to just really automate all of the more tedious aspects of my job as much as I can.
Thank you, Sonia. That's really interesting. I think for me, I've been lucky because I started the business with a co-founder, and we went through a process. We kind of divvied up the hats, and it's really quite interesting because over time, what I find with having a co-founder is, we're fortunate because if one's struggling, the other will step up. And I guess that's the beauty of having that really trusted co-founder partnership. And that's kind of what stood us through, the last, it's been 7 years now. But through that process, I made the decision I was not going to be the CEO, and I did not want to be the CEO. But I do sit on the boards, and I'm, also very clear about what my specific skill set is and what I can bring to it. And sometimes the skill set is just that perseverance, that grit, and that determination, because I know I'm capable of doing anything. So if there is something that needs to get done, then I'll bring my mind to it. But there are some aspects that I see that our CEO has that I don't have. And for me, I don't know that I would be a very good CEO, but I'm also great at being a co-founder. So, that's kind of been, that's sort of an interesting process as well, but certainly going through that, looking at those roles and responsibilities and then having that evolve over time. I'm lucky because we kind of sort of progressed enough that I get to keep the hats that I like to do and the things that I'm good at. And what surprised me, I think, over the last few years, is actually some of the things that I'm good at. I never would have thought that I would have been good at it. But through the process of being a founder in a startup, you just have to do stuff, and you don't want to do it, but you have to do it. And then like, oh, actually, I'm quite good at this. So this is a whole new skill set, and I love the learning. I do a lot of back end, process improvements and automations, and that brings me a lot of joy. The small things that I just love geeking out about. Sherilyn, I'm really interested to hear from you. I've sort of shared a little bit about my experience with having a co-founder, and you spent a lot of time searching for a co-founder, and I'd love to hear about what that experience was like for you.
Yes, I have to say, I thought I really needed a co-founder, because of course it's really stressful, and it's great to have someone beside you, like you said, who can, take off some of the stress. So right from the beginning, I was looking for a co-founder, and like Sonia mentioned as well, you bring people on and then you realize, okay, maybe they're not as passionate about the same goals as you have. And that's where the expectations and all these aligning of goals start to come apart, right? So in that whole process, I thought I really need a co-founder, but actually I mean, after 5 years of trying to find a co-founder and trying different people out, I realized that actually finding a co-founder may not be a great option if for example, if you're coming from Singapore like myself, there are not many people actually in the whole legal tech field, right? And to be actually super excited about legal tech and to be super passionate and living it day to day and jumping out of bed for it, it's something that's difficult to find, right? And I mean, now we've grown past Singapore, we're now in UK, and I see a lot more people who are equally passionate. But at this point in time of the journey, because we've already raised our pre-A last year, and we do have a professional management team that's installed on the board. So it's a lot easier to run the business, and you can actually be able to do it without thinking that you need someone to lean on, but actually you have a whole team of people that you can lean on. And that's why I mentioned about like how it's very important for founders to really identify who are the team members you need that can complement yourself, because every team looks different. And if you structure the team around your strengths and weaknesses, I mean, I think that's the best and cleanest way to do it. So, right at the beginning from founder, when I started hiring the first few people, it's always like, who wants to be there? Like you're almost begging for people to join you because, you don't pay very well as a startup, and, you're just trying to rough it out. And like Sonia mentioned that you need to find people who are very flexible, who are willing to do all kinds of roles in the company. But I think as you evolve, from founder to CEO, you start to have to be very structured, very, very disciplined about who you want to bring on board, and, and what their actual contributions are going to be. So from looking for a co-founder, it's now been really making sure that I can attract good senior level people to come on board the company. So from like selling to clients, now it's like internal selling. You're like selling people to join you. And I'm really, really happy. Like in UK, we managed to attract two really, really senior people. And I remember, okay, we're not going to tell them that, but like, I remember after interviewing them, I went back to my team. I was like, wow, I think I managed to get them excited about Tesseract. And these are people who have been in the industry for like 25 years. And just, now these are the little things that make me really excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've got to really sell that. It's that vision. And yes, that's what unites and brings people together. And you've got to have that driving force.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and share that with everyone.
And the energy.
Yeah, that's right. Bring that energy. Now, Sonia, your co-founder story is different to Sherilyn's. You're married to your co-founder. I'd love to hear about the pros and cons of that for you.
Yeah, lots on both sides. This is actually my third entrepreneurial adventure, I'd say. And the previous two I did as a solo founder, really, really heavy lift. And so I knew going into this one that I needed a co-founder. And I needed somebody who was, was complementary. I'm very process oriented, engineering, right? I built machines for a living. And my co-founder, Deborah, we've been married 20 years or so now, is a public librarian, was a public librarian for many years, and very human-centered. But I spent, like Sherilyn, I spent a good bit of time looking for a co-founder outside my family for a good while. And then I realized Deborah was actually just a natural fit. She's a PhD librarian, as it turns out. Again, she'd spent a decade or more as a public librarian. And so that meant that she was really expert at curating complex information and making it accessible to lay people. That's what public librarians do. And she's just been a rock star in that department for our company. I couldn't imagine having got as far as we have without her, that particular type of talent. But to your question, I think of the cons most often because they're the painful ones, right? I can't ever go on vacation. I have to take my work home, right? That's the biggest challenge. And so we've really had to develop some discipline around siloing our multiple conversations. So we try to talk about work during work hours and leave it out during the rest of the day and the evening. That sort of, for a startup, it's really impossible. That's a really high bar. We don't manage to do that, but at least it's a goal that helps us keep things on track. But the pros I've highlighted. I mean, again, I could not have gotten this far without someone that talented, but who I also had a personal relationship with, intimate relationship with. The number one reason startups fail, obviously, is because they run out of money before they reach some traction. For the number one reason for running out of money is co-founder drama, right? Which is why it's so important to find the right founders for a company. And Deborah and I worked together on many, many different projects by the time we started Courtroom 5. So we already had a sort of trust and understanding on how we work that, other co-founders coming to an enterprise without that background would have found challenging. So yeah, pros and cons there for sure.
Yeah. Can I add on to that? I think I would like to encourage, everyone to not just think about the fact that you need a co-founder. I mean, coming from my journey, the problem is all the funds or VCs will tell you, okay, we're not going to fund solo founders. We're not going to fund founders who are in a relationship. I mean, we've seen that, change over the years, right? I mean, look at, the Canva founder, Melanie, those are like great stories of how actually things can be different. And, from being called a weak founder in the past, because I was solo, I couldn't find a co-founder, to having raised funds and actually expanding the company, it can be done. It really can be done. Yeah. So keep your heads up, don't give up. And maybe the solution is not really in having a co-founder. It's really finding someone who can complement you in skill sets.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about having that team around you.
Yes.
And I think also it's interesting because there's some research out there that shows that actually women founders of startups actually manage their money better. And part of it is women find it harder to get the money, which is, there's lots of research out there about that. But once you get the money, actually women founders, they manage it better because they know that perhaps we're not sure when the next lot's coming in. So I think, women founded businesses are, exceptionally good for investors. But also there are so many businesses that investors invest into that have their co-founders are married. It's actually more than people might expect. And I think, I guess in my experience with with co-founders, and I guess in my network of startups, that when the co-founder relationship goes bad, it's like a really, really bad marriage, and goes to a really, really bad divorce, and usually results in the business failing. And I know, conversations we've had with investors over the years, it's always about what is it that's going to keep this co-founder relationship together, because if it fails, then the chances are that the business will fail. So again, choosing your co-founder is you got to choose it carefully. Otherwise, you're better off going solo, which is what Sherilyn has absolutely done and got an amazing team around her. So talking about the team, I think that's where we're going to move on to next. because as you scale and grow as a startup, it's all about, you know, building the team, insourcing, outsourcing. And, you know, Sherilyn's done a tremendous job of scaling globally and got a tremendous team around her. So I'd love to hear about, you know, a bit more about the challenges and what you've learned, and I guess how you can share that with the group today.
So I guess growing the team for me was a bit of an art and a science at the same time. So, you know, from wearing 8 hats, you know, to figure out which hat to give up first. So those are the very important questions I ask myself every day. So maybe I can share, you know, my personal ones, and then, you know, you can see how in your journey that might be relating to your journey. So for example, I started to give up, of course, the finance hat first, because at the beginning, you're probably not going to manage a lot of money. So you can actually have a external bookkeeper, for example, to help you to manage the, you know, expenses, the small things that goes in and out of the company, and also to have someone that can counter check you. I'm an accountant by training, interestingly, but the funny thing is I never like to do bookkeeping, so I don't think anyone does, but but that was the first hat I let go of. And then after that, I went on to letting go of operations. It's a very big hat. But so instead of actually building out the team of many different people, what I did is to stick to the rule of only 6 people reporting to me at any one point in time. So this is an important number. Some people believe in 4 and not 6. So it depends on yourself. So you can adjust as you go along. So as you start to let go operations, for example, it's a very big piece for us because we do workflow automation. So if you look at the nature of our business, it's very tech heavy. So at that point in time, I was doing tech days, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So that was very heavy, and it takes time away from actually doing everything else. So operations was important, but I still wanted to have input into product, because ultimately, you know, I'm the one that speaks to everyone, and all the juice of like what is important is still in my head. So we hired an operations team to kind of manage that process. In our business, there's a number of different parts to it. So there is the professional services part where we help our clients with migration. There's a client services part where, you know, we help clients with training and everything after, you know, handover. So, so operations actually falls, you know, under the category of both of them. That takes that away from me. So migration is now actually handled by, you know, professional data engineers, which is great. Because imagine I was doing that, you know, one by one, using Excel sheets and reading thousands of data points, right? So that then takes out, you know, at least 50% of my time already. And then when you start to scale down the things, you know, that are routine, that can be repeated by someone other than yourselves, then I think one of the few last pieces that I actually took off was client success, because I love talking to our clients, right? Like that's the reason why we go on, and that's where also that I find you know, a lot of satisfaction, a lot of ways I can troubleshoot really quickly. But it is not sustainable if I am always the point of contact, because then they keep calling me, right? So then we put in a process in place such that, you know, clients have round-the-clock support, for example, without me being there all the time. And so you hand over these little pieces bit by bit, and then you put structures into them. You don't have to rush into, I guess, doing everything at the same time, because it can be quite stressful handing over everything. And, you know, if it doesn't work out, then you have to pick up the pieces back again, right? So it's better to do it one by one. And like right now, the last few pieces, like the bigger parts of finance, not so much, you know, the day-to-day bookkeeping, but, you know, fundraising, numbers, projections, strategy. I always create a team of a triangle, I call it. So I always have 2 other people that will be shadowing every single thing that I do. So within the team itself, I've hired 2 people that I really trust. And what I do with all these triangulated teams is that I don't have to repeat myself. For example, if I'm allocating a task to one, and the other knows what the other one is supposed to do. So I always encourage that open communication within teams, because it's all these little minutes that you can save that really it's going to make a very big difference. And so, and creates a culture of transparency, right? It makes everyone know like what are the next steps, what's the plan, what's someone else doing, and how can I support my team member in doing those things. So right now, actually, my portfolio is, of course, other than being a CEO, which actually, you still do some of the admin stuff that you need to do. For example, deciding on ESOP, figures, how you're going to structure that, how you're going to talk to investors. But also, I'm still holding on to product. But instead of doing the whole product myself, I have a team meeting like weekly with my operations team, together with the product team. And I basically approve, builds or anything that we need to build on top of it, or any bugs we need to solve. So those are things that are done weekly instead of 3 times a week. So, you kind of build all these operations around you such that, you can spend as little time as possible on something that, you don't need to spend a lot of time on every single day. So those are just like some ways you can structure your team. Even now, as we grow outside of Singapore and into UK, it's the same structure that we hold to. So transparency is important. We encourage, communicating in teams. So not too many private messages, because those tend to get lost, right? Like if I were to tell team member A something, and then I have to repeat and tell team member B, oh, I told team member A to do this, so you might want to do this other thing. And those can get quite confusing as your team gets bigger. And also cross-cultural differences. I know that, for example, in Singapore, we're very similar to Australia, very similar to UK, because we speak English, and we are part of the Commonwealth, like nations, but or the way we deal with law, right? But the best for me is not to assume that. Because what we've learned, right, from M&As, right, in the past, right, is that if you don't assume that similarity, then you're more aware and careful when you're communicating your expectations to people coming from different countries. There's always all these minute things that needs to be explained. So, I feel like I'm learning how to explain a lot more instead of do. Right. So my job has transitioned from doing to really trying to communicate. And that I think is also a journey that I'm trying to learn. Even until now, I feel like the way that I storytell, needs work, and that's something that I'm working on.
Thank you. I got so much out of that, Sherilyn. That was amazing. And Sonia, again, you're at a different point, but I'd love to hear about, what have been the challenges for you with building a team?
Yeah, to Sherilyn's point, it's trying to figure out what to let go of first. And I think as we started early on growing, it was important to release the customer service function. We have an online community, we're B2C, and a lot of the inbound contacts we were getting were repeatable. There were templates that I'd begun to use doing customer service. So we felt it very easy to just offload that. And so we brought on the community manager and customer success person to manage that. She very quickly outgrew that role. Just a fantastic hire. And so she's evolved into operations as well. Was able to take that load off us very quickly. After that, I think the important thing to release was product, and that was very difficult for me. I had my hands very deep in it, building it from the ground up, but we found and hired just an extraordinary product and technical leader who was able to just take what we had built and run with it. And so I still keep a close eye on it just because I'm so familiar with it, but I'm increasingly confident that I don't really have to be there on product at all, right? And so that's been just a wonderful transition. The other piece is business development, is the growth piece. I still have my hand somewhat in that. The model we followed is to build it and then release, right, to someone who can take that whole function and run with it. And we're still nailing the business development, the business model for the company. And so I've got a finger or two in that, but we have again, an extraordinary leader who's very experienced in this area, who's able to take it and develop it. And so I've been released from 80% or so of that function at this point as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Sonia. Yeah, I think for a lot of businesses, especially in the startup space, it's getting. I think the two challenges is it's getting the sales, it's getting that growth, and then getting the money. And balancing the cash, and then the growth. And if you got those right, or one of them right, or the other half right, it's then you're onto great things. But if one of them's not so good, then yeah, it's tough because you need both going. I think the only thing I can really add to what Sonia and Sherilyn have said is, I guess reflecting over the years, is that what your business needs at the beginning is not in terms of roles and the people that are in those roles. It's going to change and evolve. And so the people that you're going to need in those roles, the job descriptions and the types of people that you're going to need and their mindset can be quite different, 3 or 4 years down the track. And I think that's a challenge as a founder and a CEO, is how do you either transition people into new roles, or indeed bring in new people. And then there's that, bit of a natural, change of people in an organization. I think the other thing to comment on is, we've got a massive jobs and skills crisis in Australia, and I'm sure that's reflected in other countries as well. And so for us, in our business, we've had to be creative about how we address that, because if we can't grow our product in a way that also, manages our cash, or even, and trying to manage that, there's been a huge amount of, turnover for people. We've had to be really creative and strategic about how we do that. So a couple of years ago, we started, put our toes in the water and hired our first team member in the Philippines. And again, we hired by skills and also hired by culture. He's still with us and is an extremely talented developer. And we've now got a team of 8 people in the Philippines. So for us, that's been quite transformational. And it hasn't stopped us building out and growing our culture. It's actually made it stronger because we focus on it. And that has then had a flow-on effect to our Australian team. And we have had, literally no turnover in the last couple of years. And it's meant that we're able to, be really focused. We have that shared vision, we have that shared culture. And then it's easier then to bring on new people because they're coming into something that's really rich and encouraging and positive. And I'm hoping that, and I think as we grow, we're expanding into the UK. I don't want to lose that. So yeah, that's a challenge. That's a challenge. And I think one of the ways that we're addressing that when we're expanding internationally, and that's kind of our next topic, is we're really lucky that our head of operations, our COO, who was a key hire for us 3 or 4 years ago, is actually going to move to the UK and head up the business over there. So when we hire people over there, again, it's going to be easier for us to transfer that for that culture, which I think for us is really important, and that's going to be pivotal to our success. But Sherilyn, you've so much more experienced and matured in this area of expanding. How did you do that? How did you get started?
I think the faster you fail, the faster you learn, and the faster you know what to do.
And the less money you spend doing it.
Yes, it's so amazing. Like last year, actually, we fundraised to grow out across to Hong Kong, Southeast Asia, and Australia. Okay, that was the plan. But Delta and Omicron kind of like killed it all. And I couldn't be sitting there and thinking what to do with the money, right? So because you need to pivot, you need to kind of like move on, right? And so when travels began and resumed in the UK, I basically booked the first flight out of Singapore and to land in UK and started having conversations there instead, because you just have to pick something, right? And you have to, of course, not randomly, but like, after studying the country, the market that's suitable for you. And so took the first VTL flight out. It's not exactly short, like I think from Singapore it's about like 13 to 14 hours each way. So went there, have conversations and try and like narrow down my pitch, trying to sell to the first few firms that we wanted to target there, and list down what makes a win, what looks like a win, and what is not, right? And a win can be very simple. It can be like, okay, 3 introductions into a particular law firm. So, you keep your list really simple, really small, so that you can celebrate these small wins as you go along, because it's really important, because you're going to get a lot of rejections and a lot of failures, but, you just need to keep these small things to make yourself happy. So, and after landing in the UK, it's about like proving that there's product market fit. I think that's important because if you have no product market fit, then it's not a market for you. But of course, you can't prove product market fit in overnight or in a few months. You need to really keep doing it and just keep sticking out at it. The first few months or even a year. And that was difficult because I was staying in random Airbnbs. I was getting COVID and alone in the cold and the rain. But I didn't have the option though of like moving over to UK, unfortunately, because I wasn't sure yet, right? And you will face that uncertainty of whether, hey, is UK the right market? Is Australia? I mean, wherever you go, right? And the faster you can, test some of your hypothesis, then you can make like small decisions to move ahead. So once we got, our first POC, we had our first close, we realized, okay, if you can sell to one, then you can sell to many, right? And I think it's important for founders to actually experience that yourself, because I'll explain a bit why, right? I mean, I've hired salespeople, many salespeople, I guess, in my life. And it's very hard, for example, for the salesperson to come back to you and say, oh, I've not closed, because you have not closed any. Right. So I think the key thing is that if you have closed some yourself, then, after you hire a salesperson and you are able to tell that person's like, okay, this is how I did it. And you just rinse and repeat, because if you can't close, then you can't prove that it's product market fit. Then whichever salesperson that you hire in may not be able to find that for you, because they're not as passionate about the product as yourself. Right. So I think that's an important point. And salespeople are, everyone is different, right? And when you're hiring more professional salespeople, they need to have that support. They need to be able to say, okay, this and this person has already used it, and now we can sell it to these other similar related firms of the same category or something like that. So it's important to highlight that in this journey of, I guess you would call it founder-led sales to a professional sales team, that usually happens in Series A when you're growing. And, before that, you're probably just like getting sales from word of mouth, from your marketing efforts, and also from your own reputation in the market, right? And referrals from friends. So, stick out that period. I think it's important, even though it's tough, or if you're not a natural salesperson, like me, I'm not really a natural salesperson. I just go out there and do lots of demos. But for me, it's like, okay, it's fine if you don't buy. I just want to show you what I have. And find that style, because I think it's important later on when you're building a sales team, and they need to be able to see that passion shine through. And then they can then take it forward and structure it in a proper sales organization, and then push everything out for you.
Yeah, I love that. I think, that understanding your own organization's sales process and being able to define it and scale it is just so crucial. I mean, we're more of a, I've learned over the years that we're more of an enterprise sales. So we kind of take a team sales approach, which I love, because that means you're consciously choosing who you're bringing into the client's meetings. And so I'm often involved in those early stages, which is that, bringing in, the relationship and the questions and understanding their pain points. That's where I thrive. And then towards the end of the sales process, then it's our, operations head who might be coming in and, understanding their processes and integrations or things like that. So for us, that's something we've had to learn over the years. But Sonia, your business is different. It's more of a B2C model. How have you been able to expand, and get, what have you learned about that process?
Yeah, it is difficult to build something new. For us, if you think about getting into legal trouble, your first stop is to a law firm. All right, our customers do the same thing. Often get sticker shock and realize, as I did, that you can't hire one. But that's a great opportunity to incentivize a referral to something that can help that
Yeah.
client. And so
Great idea.
we have. Yeah, we've developed a process that incentivizes lawyers to do that, and then to monetize those otherwise lost leads through our platform by providing them with unbundled or limited scope legal services, right? And so we're still, it feels like we're still at the very beginning of that process, but we don't market to lawyers. We have to be very clear about who our customer is, and that is the person managing their own case, right? So we are somewhat unlike a traditional marketplace. We're not trying to sell to both sides of it, all right? And so the lawyers are more of a part of the solution for our customers than a source of revenue for us. But nonetheless, we need to reach lawyers to provide our customers with the legal services they need. And so rather than marketing to lawyers directly, we work through partnerships, relationships that those lawyers already have. Fastcase is one of our partners for that. In the US, they are the largest provider of legal research services, for instance, to small and solo firms. We have a couple other partnerships like that that help introduce what we're doing to lawyers that want to work with us. And so, but we're, again, still at the very early stages of building out that model. It's a really heavy lift, but we see tremendous potential in it. Obviously, our customers, our customers love the prospect of being able to access legal services in this way. So we're encouraged to continue it and to build it out nationwide.
Yeah, that's really interesting because your model is very different to ours, but there's actually some similarities because you've got two sides. You've got the end consumer who needs the legal services, but also you've got the law firms. And I mean, yeah, and that's our business model as well. We've got the clients who've also got the law firms, different law firms to you guys. But it's so I find it always fascinating because you have to have one and the other, but then you've got limited resources. So how do you get one and then the other? What have you sort of found works for you guys, Sonia?
Working through partners again, so that we don't have to, market to the 1.3 million lawyers in the U.S. here.
Yeah,
yeah. We wanted to work in a way that did not draw our resources away from marketing to our own customers, right? And so, yeah, we just decided to try to kill two birds with one stone there. But to your question, we're still working out the wrinkles in that model, right? It is highly innovative. No one else is working with lawyers in quite this way, and we're able to do that because of the technology we've built that underlies this entire model.
Yeah,
but it is a heavy lift. Our head of business development is a lawyer who spent some time in small law firms, and so is able to speak with lawyers in that target market very well in ways that I was not able to do. But we still have to. I'm still involved in again working out some of the wrinkles and just smoothing the way to get that going.
Yeah, I always think that when things are really hard, but you're in the right spot, that's actually a barrier to competition. If it was easy, someone else would have already done it. So that's, always a good reason. Just remind myself, you just got to keep persevering because it's actually a barrier to competition. So Sonia, I've got a question from the audience for you that kind of follows on from the points you just spoke to. And it was about, have you had any resistance from regulatory authorities in your business model?
I wouldn't call it resistance. There is a concern that, that consumers are being protected. Anytime you are working directly with consumers in a regulated environment, regulators want to be sure that folks are being taken care of. And we are on the same side. We have an open door for them, very proactive conversations. So we haven't had any resistance yet. But we're, as I said, very proactive about reaching out to them, we offer a freemium. So any regulator is welcome to sign up and see, and experience it the same way our customers are. So we are very transparent in our operations, try to be as good as we can to our customers while making money from them. We'd love to be able to give it away, right? But yeah, we haven't had any regulatory challenges at all. We are in North Carolina, where I'm based. We're required to register as, I believe it's an online document preparer, just a simple form that we have to maintain every year. And so we find those sorts of requirements for us in various states, just a few of them. It's not a challenge for us, not an onerous task to just go ahead and register. So we do that. But we are actually working with incubators, working to work with incubators that are associated with state bars, right? We want to make sure that they are able to serve the small and solo lawyers a little better. And so we're wanting to partner with them. Therefore, it's necessary for us to have a wide open door to anyone who has regulatory questions.
Thanks, Sonia. That was a great answer. So we've got 10 minutes of the session left. We could just talk for hours, and we do have like loads of other topics that I've got prepared to talk through. But this is the opportunity to ask questions. So we're going to continue on to our next topic, but please think about any questions that you have for the panelists, and I'll make sure we get onto those. I think one of the things that both Sonia and Sherilyn have spoken about is the importance of investors, and what I love is it sounds like they've got good relationships with their investors, but I think there are as you're scaling and growing, sometimes what investors want can change to what you want as founders and the CEO. And so I'm curious for you, Sonia, first, what has that experience been like for you? And also, I guess, you're going through you're looking at it through the lens of an access to justice startup. So your investors might have different, reasons for investing in you than perhaps other businesses. I'm curious to hear about that and what that experience has been like.
Yeah, raising money requires a network. You have to know people who know people with money, whether they are running their own funds or angel investors or whoever. When we got started, we did not have that network, and we don't have family and friends who are wealthy or any of that. And so it took us some time to be able to build that network and to raise money. We're fairly well on that path now, but that exercise infused in us a interest in just continually building network, right? And getting to know investors. And one of the things that I learned in the process is that I have to like the people I take checks from. Because this is going to be a long relationship. And so I'm always fundraising in the sense of having to build that network. So I talk to a lot of investors long before I have an actual round where, okay, now it's time to send me money, right? Always having those conversations and building relationships with people. And oftentimes you can tell very quickly, there's not a match here, there's not a fit. And you move on. There's lots of money out there for good ideas, at least, right? And so it's easy for us to just move on. But the investors we have, I like them, right? I like them as people. They tend to be interested not just in the ability to make money, but in our ability to have impact. Particularly here in the US. I stress to all of them that we're not just working on a great business idea and getting people access to justice, but we're working on building a better democracy, here in the United States. And as you all know, you have the same challenges in many other countries. We are going to do this internationally at some point as well. But our investors have also bought into that sort of triple bottom line. Right. They want to see us have impact. We're working, in fact, to measure some of that beyond the outcome of individual cases. We want to see just some people expressing more agency in their lives. That's our ultimate goal. It is really important, though, to learn to be aligned with your investors, to understand what they're really interested in. All of them want to make money, right? All of us want to make money. So we're aligned in that regard. But you want to understand the sort of the balance between making money and the other considerations like impact.
Thanks so much, Sonia. That was really inspiring. Yeah, really great to hear. And Sherilyn, what about you?
Yeah, I'll share a bit on, I think, the other aspects of investor relations. I'm a mother of a 3-year-old boy. And, I've been on this journey since 2014, end of 2014. So it's coming 8 years. So I just wanted to say that, yes, you need to definitely find investors that are rooting for you, like for life, not for the 2 years that you make money, but, for life. And they need to learn how to take care of you as well, right, as a investee. So, for example, I'm just very blessed that we have investors who do that. I have investors who call me up and say, are you okay? Like, do you want to rent or do anything? To tell us, or run through your strategy so we can help you to craft these emails. We have investor who, obviously, I mean, there's this whole taboo about like how, if you're pregnant and you're, giving birth and, you get less opportunity to more investments, right? And I have angel investors who say, hey, you need to go and have more kids when you want to right now, because, before you grow older, it'll be more dangerous for you. So there's all these conversations that's not just about, the business side of things, but taking care of yourself as a human, right? We all need like some kind of balance and I won't say balance, maybe integration, right? And I think in the startup world, even more so because your life is integrated. Like what you do in your personal life is almost directly correlated to what you're doing in your business life. So I'm very fortunate, like, before having a child, I had a conversation with my husband and, I spoke to him about how, if I'm going to do this, then you need to take care of the baby, more or less. And now he's the one doing that. He's the primary caregiver, and I'm very thankful for that. And without that, it would have not been possible for me to do the things, everything. And one other thing to note is that other than investors who are very supportive, you really need to find external growth levers. So for myself, I mean, I'm not always that clear-minded. We go into periods of time where you're like all over the place, messy hair, and then like no idea what's going on. And I do have a counselor and a coach that I go to for different purposes. And, after giving birth, I was working so much that I thought I had postnatal depression. And I had to visit a counselor and find out whether, that was true. And what I realized was not even just postnatal depression. I didn't have that in the end. It was actually lack of sleep. So, but, I think coaches and counselors give an extra, like they're there rooting for you and they're there to kind of hear you out. And do invest if you have, a bit of spare, cash, because I feel that is going to accelerate your learning by really 10 or 100 times, because the whole journey is about self-management. If you are able to manage yourself better, you can then manage the business better. And that amount of spare cash, which I always tell my friends, it's better than going for a massage, because a massage is like an hour and then that's it, right? Like that's the end of, the enjoyment. But, to have a clear head and to be able to go through every single day feeling, motivated and happy, that's a different thing altogether, right? It's a more deep-rooted like happiness. So do invest in yourself always.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see Sonia nodding. I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. You've got to look after yourself. Yeah. Well, I think, Terry, that we are at time now. So thank you so much, Sonia and Sherilyn. That was just awesome. I just really have got so much out of meeting you and hearing you share your stories and your business achievements. And I've just gone away with so many little snippets of insights and inspiration. And I'm sure that others have as well. And they will continue to as they watch the video on demand and all of that.
Yeah.
It's been delightful to join you.
Absolutely. I was furiously taking notes the whole time through. So just so many pearls of wisdom. Thank you very much as well, Sasha, for facilitating this conversation. Folks, there's 8 of these in the series. We'll have 3 of them this year, and then the balance will be next year. So we've got Startup to Scale Up coming up next, and then we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into funding for women-led businesses as well in the 3 that we have this year. So one's at the end of October and then another at the beginning of December. So do please come along to those. And I just want to add my thanks again to you, Sasha, Sonia, and Sherilyn, for a fantastic discussion. And of course, thank you to everyone for coming. And I know that all of these folks are very open to you reaching out to them. Obviously, you'll find their websites, but you'll also find them all on LinkedIn. So do please go ahead and do that. So on that note, again, folks, thank you very much indeed. And we'll see you back for episode 2, I hope. Thanks again. Bye.
Wonderful. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.